Nothing was really stood out because basically Harmony Gold was representing Continental Pro. So we had stuff like Gotcha Man. No, we couldn't even get Gotcha Man. That was already there was Gordion. There was no, that was a different studio. Done by with PMS. There was.
Since you asked a good question, you have a choice between Max or Kakizaki.
Alright. No love for Kakizaki.
The one that there was not very many of them. There was like Cash On. There was Time Volcan series. There was Go Light Band. There was just marginal stuff that didn't have that military. I wanted something that was military, that had a military criteria, that had transformable mecha, that had similar visualization in terms of the scope of the mecha and stuff like that. And it was obvious ultimately, once I started to look at them, that those three series really worked. And they weren't even in that order, because Southern Cross was the most recent show that Tatsunoko had done. And Macross was first, then Mosquito, then Southern Cross. And I rearranged the order.
Thank you very much. The live action movie, is that going to follow, what's that going to follow?
It's going to follow all of Robotech.
No idea. The Robotech storyline.
Yeah, it's just going to be an adaptation of Robotech. It's not going to be any particular section. They're just going to start with the origin.
Yes, go ahead. Probably. I think so. I think it has to. You know, just for all practical purposes. You know.
And for the romantics.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in my world it did, but I don't own the property, so. Yes.
Okay, I have heard, and I don't know if this is still relevant, that you guys had some licensing issues with the people who owned Macross in Japan, like Studio New or whoever it was who owned it. And that because there were some licensing issues, you guys couldn't use any of the stuff from like Macross for any of the like future projects you wanted to do. Like, what's the deal with that?
Oh, you know what? There's been the high-profile Studio Nui Big West I guess litigation in Japan. But the thing is, the way it ended up getting resolved, our licensing was unaffected in the United States. And so if you look at our use of the Macross merchandise, even okay, look at this. This came out last summer, and we licensed it, and we even licensed the Do You Remember Love merchandising. I mean, so the thing is, even though the rights within Japan might have fractured, the original different producers might be fighting over the merchandising rights. What happened is, this is in 1985, the commercial rights were signed over to the United States. And this was not even signed off just by Tatsunoko. This was actually signed off by Studio Nui and Big West. And so they had actually licensed their international rights outside of Japan. And so those commercial rights now reside with Harmony Gold. And so that's why there's been no effect on our merchandising since then.
So wait. So could you like end up using the character designs and stuff from Macross in future works?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We've been publishing new comics, we've been publishing this and that. Now here's the thing. The thing is, we'll be very strategic. Now, the question is, why did the Sentinels change some of these designs? Why did they look different? The thing is, they didn't want to just box themselves as being something that could be just sold outside of Japan. The idea back with the Sentinels was, maybe we can sell this in Japan too. And so that's why, to avoid any rights issues within Japan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the thing is, even with Shadow Chronicles, the idea is maybe we can sell this all around the world. And so we kind of decided, okay, we'll just follow the same rules we did with the Sentinels.
Is that why?
You know, in terms of all other licensing, that's just outside of Japan.
He's dying.
Okay, okay, we gotta wrap it up. Free for all tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Kramer that characterizes Robotech the movie as a failure, but then if you just look at the market that it was released in by itself,
It was not a failure.
yeah.
And people don't really understand the reasoning behind Canon Films' decision to pull it out of their marketing strategy. But I'll tell you what happened. When they were going to release the film nationwide in August, in about 3 weeks, they had pre-booked commercial time on the syndicated television stations all around the country during the kids block. And what that meant is after school syndication at that time, it wasn't Oprah and it wasn't you know, Dr. Drew or Dr. Phil, it was cartoons. And it was He-Man or Thundercats or Voltron or Robotech or GoBots or, you know, you fill in the blanks, you know, all these wacky cartoons, Smurfs, things like that. And so what Canon figured is the cheapest place that they could buy ad time was in the Smurfs. So they bought national coverage for Robotech the movie in the Smurfs. And what happened, and the He-Man and stuff like that. And what happened was, when they got their box office reports, they realized that 98% of the audience bought an adult ticket. You know, when you go to the theater, you can buy an adult ticket. Now it's $8 and a kid's it's like $5. And back then it was like $5 for an adult ticket, $2.50 for a kid's ticket. Well, the overwhelming majority of people buying tickets were adults, over 15. So they realized that they were going to blow a huge amount of money with their advertising plan to sell the film to kids that were under the child ticket. So they couldn't figure out where to market it. And there were reports, and I can verify because I saw them, that children, little kids, who thought they were seeing a cartoon because they didn't know what the hell it was, ran out of the theater screaming in terror because it was so loud and people were getting blown up and guys were dying, and it was not My Little Pony or the Smurfs or whatever they thought it was going to be, but it was just this hellacious, you know, relentless, you know, alien attack and counterattack by humans for 90 minutes. And it was just a lot of explosions. It wasn't a movie set for kids, which is what we told them at Canon continually, but they didn't listen to us. The way Robotech the movie got, the evolution of Robotech the movie was very bizarre. It was organic. Disney was releasing a movie at the time called The Black Cauldron, and Robotech was a really popular television show. And there was a fellow in Los Angeles named Sam Chu Lin who would do these featured news reports on the local news on KTLA, which is Channel 5 in Los Angeles. And he was like the guy that would do like the public interest story of like, you know, the dog that saves a baby, or, you know, some guy that had the biggest zucchini at the state fair or something like that. So he wanted to do a show, a segment on Robotech, the little guy, Harmony Gold versus Disney the big guy, and his contention was that Robotech is so popular, could a Robotech movie be able to compete on the big screen with a Disney movie like The Black Cauldron, because The Black Cauldron was an atypical Disney movie. It was like a movie that was trying to be more, not necessarily adult, but a little more violent and a little more sophisticated in storytelling than some of the other Disney films. And this was at the 10 o'clock news broadcast, and about 10:30 when the broadcast was over, Frank Agrama got a phone call at home from a guy named, it was either Menachem Golan or Yoram Globus, either Golan or Globus, the guys that owned Canon Films. One of those guys was watching TV in a hot tub with a couple of babes at his house in Beverly Hills, and he saw this thing, and he knew Frank Agrama because in the clip on TV, Frank Agrama was at Interson telling me what to do in terms of directing these people while we were recording a fake session of Robotech that they set up for this particular thing. So apparently the Canon guy said, "Hey, I know that guy."